Welcome everybody to the book launch for Elliot Rubin's book, Show Me the Banksy. We're very, very happy to be celebrating this today. I'm Lisa Tomey Zonneville. I'm the manager of Prolific Pulse Press, and I'm very honored that Elliot did submit to this press and to be able to publish his book. Congratulations, Elliot, and thank you all so much for making a show of support today. And I will go ahead and get started with the video. All right. So again, welcome everybody to the book launch for Show Me the Banksy by Elliot Rubin. So glad to have everybody here today. I would invite each of you to write in the chat maybe a special message for Elliot, which I will save for him, to remember this day by, to remember this moment by. We're so happy to celebrate today. And actually, we're going to have three esteemed poets read for us today from Elliot's book. We have Bill Waldorf, and Brandy Begin, and Safraz Ahmed. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much to you three for presenting today. And we're going to get started with Brandy. So Brandy, anytime you're ready, just jump right in.
Perfect. Hi to everyone. My name is Brandy Began. I'm honored to be here celebrating Elliot's new book, Show Me the Banksy. I can't speak highly enough about Elliot. I've been in his critique groups for, I believe, a solid year now, and just the mentoring he's given me along the way. I definitely would not be the poet I am today without his guidance. So I'm very, very happy to be here. I've chosen to read three different poems from Show Me the Banksy. The first one is titled Waiting, and that can be found on page 11. waiting. Mornings after turn into days, then weeks and months. I'm tired of waiting. To love me like you said you would, forever is so far away. Like it was yesterday, I was your bae, the one and only, to love and hold. You said what I needed, too bad you didn't mean it. Words once said have meaning, it's tough to heal a broken heart. And that was waiting. The second poem I would like to read is Memories of the Heart, and that can be found on page 13. Memories of the Heart. I remember standing in the park under tall trees in bloom. I reached into a bag to throw breadcrumbs on the ground for the pigeons who scatter in the air when finished looking for a next meal. You flew away after I gave you sustenance and my heart, never looked back at the wreckage left behind. My heartache can't take a vacation. It can't heal as long as you left a void in my life. And that again was Memories of the Heart. And then the last one I would like to read for you today can be found on page 56. And this is Childhood Wishes. Childhood Wishes. It's her 12th birthday today. I don't know how to tell my daughters Mama isn't coming home to give out hugs and kisses. On the verge of womanhood, I'm the only one she has. Mama ran off with a guy a year ago. Don't know where she is. Packed her bags one morning while I was at work. The girls were at her mother's. She put a goodbye note on my pillow. Left me with 2 young ones. I try my best with them, but I hunt, fish, and drink. Never bought a dress before. My life turned upside down. Had to give up my world for theirs. I bought a card last week. Asked a salesgirl to sign it. Mama. Hope the mailman's on time today. Just want to make her happy. Asks when she's coming back. Don't know how to say it's never. And again, that was Childhood Wishes.
Thank you so much, Brandy. Beautiful, beautiful words from a beautiful poet. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity. And again, congratulations, Elliot.
Thank you. So for us, you're on.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for this great opportunity to come and to congratulate Elliot on your book. It is amazing. It's had fantastic reviews, and I'm going to read 2 poems from the book. But what I'd like to do, if I can, I want to read my dedication to Elliot that I actually dedicated my last book to Elliot. And I'm going to read that out to you. I think that's probably the best way that I can describe Elliot to you. So this is the dedication from my last book, which is called The Ramblings of a Romantic Poet. So I would like to dedicate The Ramblings of a Romantic Poet to my dear friend and mentor, Elliot Rubin, the founder of the Poetry Critique Group. I joined this group in the beginning of 2022 and has helped shape my poetry, take my work beyond the early poetry I wrote to something more profound. Elliot became a mentor, whether he knew this or not, an amazing poet and editor who knows the key ingredients that makes a good poem. Thanks for introducing me to the US poets, especially Charles Bukowski and Frank O'Hara. Your knowledge of the creative art of writing poetry is insightful. You are a treasure trove of creativity that constantly fuels our imagination and the desire to write. I truly look forward to your slice of life poetry each week as it brings to life everyday America, and especially New York, a city that has inspired me to write many poems in this book. Okay. So what I want to do is to read 2 poems from the book. And if everyone knows my work, I do like romantic poetry. I love writing about romance. And I like short poems as well. And Elliot does all of this in abundance. So there was so much in that book. So on page 64, I'm going to read Time. Time. I don't know why time doesn't stand still. Moments I fell in love. Precious, I don't want them gone. They are too valuable to be blurred to history, only remembered later when no one is left to hear of them, locked in my memory. Thank you. So that is Time on page 64. And the other one that caught my eye is Mints. Now, with Eliot's writing, you know, you can tell this is an Eliot poem. You can just tell. Because what he does, he actually pulls you in and it draws the reader into this beautiful, beautiful poem. But the last stanza or the last couple of lines, he whacks you around the head with something, oh, wow, where did that come from? So that is Elliot Rubin. And I'm actually on the, I mean, I said this to Elliot, I've actually started to collect his books. And I'm kind of halfway through, but it's becoming it's one of those things. It's becoming more and more a bit of an expense. So, but I do aim to get there. So yeah. So I have got most of your books, and I'm going through them. Okay. So my contribution, and the last poem I'm going to read is Mints on page 55. It's the beginning of the book. It's called Mints. If for a breath mint, she could have been my forever. If for a breath mint, I remember her so well, my sister's girlfriend, both of us teenagers. Both of us with newly discovered hormones raging uncontrolled. That night Sis went to bed. Her friend and I didn't. We stayed up late, exploring, feeling new experiences, killing innocence. Next morning she came in my room to kiss me good morning. If only for a breath mint, she could be my forever. Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you, Safraz. It's beautiful. Love that poem.
I love
all
it.
of them.
Favorites.
And next would be Bill Waldorf.
Yes. Thank you for the privilege and the honor of reading some of your poetry. When an artist puts something down and shares it, it should be noted that the artist is actually sharing part of them, part of themselves, part of their soul. And Elliot very graciously always shares. We go back a long time. I'm going to read First Love, which appears on page 35. First love. In my youth, she was breathtaking. Heads turned as she walked by. My heart beat faster every time I saw her. An alluring voice. We were meant for each other, but she ignored me. Never knew I existed. She married another. So this desire must end. Goodbye. And as Elliot always does, we have a turn right near the end. It's page question 5. It's another one to read. Questions. And that appears on page 51. Poets always ask questions. Questions. Is God not perfect? How else can there be such agony on earth? With young children, hurting, broken bones, abuse, overcome with illness, the youngest dying. An indefectible deity with a heart would not let this happen, would not let people succumb to disease or innocence be killed. Humans fall in love with soulmates, only to have them die, then be left alone till their life expires too. Where is the all-powerful, omnipotent when we are in need? So nice to have the honor. Thank you all. Buy the book.
Thank you, Bill. Bill's going to be having a book coming out with Prolific Pulse Press. So I'm really looking forward to working on that with you. Okay. Wow. What can we say about the guest of honor? Oh, goodness. I've always been impressed with Elliot's work because I like it. It's short, sweet, to the point. And like Bill was saying, there's that little twist at the end after he takes you on this little journey. There's that twist at the end. I love it. And I've really been drawn to this poetry. I've followed Elliot on Instagram and his daily post of poems, and it's been very enjoyable. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Elliot and let you read to us.
Thank you. Normally, if something hits my ear or I see something, I tend to write about it. And I try to write very to the point. Because when I started writing, my first book was flash fiction. People's stories in 600 words is told. And that's how I write. I try to keep it right to the point. So this poem I'm going to read is on page 80, Whatever in Love Means. I wrote this, there was a documentary after Princess Diana died a few years later. And they showed when they got engaged, and somebody asked Prince Charles, are you in love? And he said, whatever love means. And this is the poem. Whatever in love means. A prince once asked, while he stood next to his bride, what in love means. I think to myself, it can't be bought or physically held, yet it can be felt. Not with one's hands, but internally in your heart. Then you will have the answer, as he well knew with his mistress. So, a little commentary. Next one I'd like to read. This was in the news not too many years ago in the United States, down in Georgia. A young black man went on a run in the morning, and he stopped in a house that was under construction. And he looked around, and then he left, and he continued his run. And a father and son saw him, chased him down, and killed him. And this is the title. It's called Black Man Run. This world isn't fair. He ain't the right color. A black man goes for a run while rednecks chase in a truck. Stop, the driver says. Not a cop, not empowered. No legal reason to halt the run. Only a shotgun says he will. Cut him off, cut him off. Don't let him get away. Someone said he's the guy. Try to block him. He might escape. 3 shots at point blank range bring dark clouds to southern Georgia. Blood on the street, hidden with a sheet. Black man run, run no more. And then I'm going to finish, if I can find it. This is called, on page 88, Opponents. This is my female empowerment poem. Opponents. The queen stands next to her king, as tall as him, yet he controls the game. If he falls, she dies too. Yet she is more powerful, can move at will where she wants, while he plods step by step. White evangelical kings make laws to control the queens of the realm. Misogynist old men try to control the bodies of their young pawns who start on the front line of life. In a fair game, she can unite the pawns to overturn a king who control her body as she wants. But kings gerrymandered a board to skew the outcome, to conquer queens because they can.
Thank you.
That's it. I write about everything.
You really do. And you make it all happen.
I try.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I would like to offer an opportunity for people here to share how they met Elliot, maybe offer some words of support. And just whenever you'd like to say something, just open up.
I would like to say that meeting Elliot was fantastic. it was a few years ago, and I was very, very new to Instagram. And I wrote a poem that captured Elliot's attention, and we started chatting online. And one day, it was actually about Brooklyn, where he grew up. And so that was, I think that's what actually got his attention, was simply Brooklyn in there. But he invited me to substitute in a workshop where he, on Fridays. And for a couple of years, I did that. And I mentioned it to Sarfraz one day. He said, "You're in Elliot's workshop? He's a legend." Remember, Sarfraz?
You remember, and I was going to mention that because it was actually you, Jill, wasn't it, that introduced me to Elliot, and
Yeah.
I was just so excited because yeah, you are a legend in my time. I think one of the things I put on Instagram this morning, I think one of the underrated poets and of our time, and I think when the world wakes up to you, Elliot, I think that's when they'll get a real awakening, because the poetry is there. It's yeah. Sorry, Jill. I kind of
Oh
intervened.
no, I'm glad. I'm glad you did that. So it was wonderful. It was wonderful for me when I was writing my first book. There isn't a second, so but it's coming. And it was wonderful to learn. It was wonderful to not be writing in without that feedback in the workshop is so incredibly useful. And for a year, I missed being with Elliot and with Bill and with a number of other friends in the workshop. And so when it became a second workshop, Sarfraz was the first in line. And I'm so, so glad to have played a tiny little chance there to be a matchmaker. I made a match and look what happened. So I'm so happy, and I want to thank you for it all worked so well. I thank God.
I mean, going on from what Jill said, I mean, I've been writing for such a long time, and I have never been to a creative writing class in my life ever. So everything that I learned was kind of in some workshops and self-taught, and just by chance in 2020, I had just kind of I got published, and then it got a bit crazy. So my books were out and everything. But to be honest, there was no guidance, and there was no mentoring, and there was no support. I think, Elliot, you gave me that, and I think you kind of you were able. I mean, now what I'm doing, now what I'm doing, I'm actually bringing some of my older poems to the group, and you can tell they've kind of aged a bit. But what Elliot and I think Bill, both of the best editors that I've ever met in my life, they can see a poem. If you show a poem to them, you just show a poem to them, they'll know exactly how to trim it, how to take bits from it, and I call it shaping the poem. So you taught me how to shape the poem. The last book is a product. That's, I mean, there was no one I would dedicate that book to than to you, Elliot, because I felt that you helped me shape the poem and helped me put things together. And I think, Jill, you gave me some feedback. I think you kind of mentioned that you liked my poetry before, but after after I've been to the critique groups with Elliot, you saw something beyond what it was. And I think that's what you do, Elliot. You take something and you make it something fantastic. You take it beyond what it is. And I look forward to not just your critique groups, but I love listening to your poetry, and especially the new beat poetry, the beat poetry that you're doing.
Yes.
And you're drawing me into that world a little bit as well. I'm very excited. But your stuff is out there. I mean, I still want to read, your erotic poetry, which I think is, is one of the best poetry out there. You could do a podcast on that, and you'll get thousands of people listening. So congratulations to your book.
Thank you.
I want it to be, it's going up there, being a bestseller. I will promote it for you 100% as I'm doing. But I think once people start reading the book, buying the book, they will start buying the back catalogue, and that's where it gets very exciting, because I think your work in all of the books is fantastic. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bill has his hand up.
Okay, I'll go before. Elliot and I go back to when we started with a group that became just Elliot and I. We started in a group that was a very large group run by a doctorate. She had a master's in English. And we worked together in that group. And then sooner or later, the group, most people are not as prolific as Elliot and write so often. Elliot and I write continually each week. And as such, we needed the critique, and the group became Elliot and myself. It is so gratifying to see someone share their work, share themselves, and put it in there openly without any reservation, and be able to have it accepted and put out to others to be able to see. It is, for this, I want to offer him my congratulations. And I understand that. Most people, when you're in a position and something wonderful is happening to you, you don't recognize it till afterwards. So something really great is happening today. When you look back at those books and you look at them, look carefully at how short and quick you're going to get to a point, and how quickly the point will turn in very little words. Now Elliot studies another poet. He studied Bukowski. He's now studying the beat poets. So as Safra has alluded to, we can't wait for coming attractions. That's what we can't wait for. Thank you. I just wanted to say that. And my friend Elliot, I'm so happy for you. Have a wonderful day, and continue to share our writings.
Thank you. Thank you.
Karuna.
Yeah, hello. So Bill, that was really good background to how the poetry workshops are running. I want to say that I got introduced to Elliot's workshops through Safraz, who knows my sister from before. So she had published a book, and actually quite a few of you know her, Pratibha Savani. So Safraz introduced me. He says, why don't you come and join, send Elliot a message. So I did. That was 1 year ago. And then, yeah, I would just like to say that, Elliot, your workshops, I haven't found anything better in this 1 year. There's been nothing like it. So I've been to just a poetry reading. So people just read their poems, but there's no critique. There's no discussion about what was good about your poems, what was, what needs improvement, that kind of thing. So I need to come back. But what happened was I went through my 200 odd poems, and I went through all the ones that I felt had a weakness that I wanted to show in front of a group. And I went through all of that in those 6 months with you. And then I just ran out of poems, so I had to stop. But now, I've managed to do a few more this year. Doing my debut, just, very soon coming out. And I just want to say that, yeah, your ability to write, Elliot, is very, I think it's been pointed out before that just within a few words, you're able to paint such a picture. It's like a full painting with just a few brush strokes. That's kind of what you do with words. And I'm still mesmerized at how you do that. It's not just the twist at the end. It's not just the shortness, but it's just the way that things are very descriptive without so many words. It does something, because obviously the mind of the reader, of the listener, is doing something, but you're able to pick out these choice words, string them together in such a way that it's just very vivid. That's all I want to say. So yeah, Elliot, going to come back and join you soon.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd like to share a little bit more if we have time.
Yes.
Perfect. So I know I already touched briefly upon the fact that I've been in Elliot's critique group for the past year, but I feel like when Bill just spoke, it brought up something for me. I feel like being in the critique group, especially as someone as well who has never studied creative writing that deeply or taken any type of class, this critique group was my first experience at doing that. And I feel like something that means so much to me, a little bit deeper than the poetry itself, is just the fact that it is such a safe space and such a welcoming space. Even as we are giving critiques, I know that I have the utmost respect from everybody in the group. A lot of the things that I write about are from personal experiences that do touch deeply into my mental health and my own experiences. And sometimes the things that I'm writing aren't, meant to be shared, but in this critique space, it is so comfortable to actually let that piece of me show. And I feel like throughout going to the critique group every week or when I'm available to, I feel like I'm coming to terms with things that have happened in my past that I've looked away from for so long. So I feel like for myself, I know that I'm growing as a poet, and that means the absolute world to me. And I'm so excited to continue my work and to continue getting different opportunities. But I also feel like in being invited to this critique group from Elliot, there are so many pieces of my own self that I'm kind of putting back together and healing. So I just needed to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. Anyone else? Van?
My hand. Okay, I want to say congratulations, Elliot.
Thank you.
And the more I hear about your critique group, the more I want to sit in. My schedule hasn't permitted me to do so, but I want you to know that I pay attention. I've been taking note. I read your works, I read Safraz's works, and I rework my own works. I can hear your voice. When I read your poems, I hear your chuckle. There's something about, Safraz said it best, that at the end, somewhere you whack us on the head. I call it sass with testosterone sass. That's what's in your works, and I love it. And I'm going to keep reading it, and I look forward to hearing more. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Joni?
Thank you for letting me come to this group today, Lisa. I feel honored that I'm able to be here. And sorry that I missed the critique group. Just never made it to Raleigh, did I? Or online, wherever it is, but it sounds like I'm really missing out there. It's a pleasure to meet, very much to meet Elliot Rubin. And I was touched by pretty much every poem somehow, but I think the way that, sort of what he was saying already, that the way that he can, or everybody's kind of touched on, make a profound, leave a profound picture with very few words. And the way that he touched on lots of things. I mean, there were lots of political things that were touched on, but everything was done in a way that just touching. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. There were some, it made me think of all kinds of questions, if it was just a question session, that I would want to ask him, what this poem might have been about. But it sounds like maybe some of the poems were done based on some of his childhood, maybe too. That was the impression I got, because they feel so real to me. Like the farm, and, when he talks about that and his family, that's what it makes me think of.
Thank you, Joni. Elliot, do a lot of your poems come from your childhood?
A lot of them do. As a child, I must have been about 4, 5, 6. My parents used to go up to a farm in Middletown, New York, for the summer, and it was a working farm. And they had it was probably about 4 or 6 rooms in a building that they would rent out for the season. And my cousin and I, we would wander through the cow fields, and we'd have to watch out for the cow pies. And and it was next to the Middletown racetrack, where one night a week they had the mini Offenhauser going around the track, and everybody would sit in the cow field, and just a bale of hay would protect us. Today, I don't know if I would do it, but when kid, and then they had the stables, and I remember my cousin and I, we were about 5, 6. We would walk down the country road, we'd jump over this ditch, and we'd sneak into the stables, and we'd walk between the horses. And I was scared witless because they were just huge, and I would walk down the middle just looking at it. I couldn't wait to get to the other end. But, it's memories, and you're right about it. And, I write to express myself. I also write so that my grandchildren and their children will have something to read about me and my thoughts. And that was one facet of why I write, besides just expressing myself. And that's probably the major overriding factor that I continue to write. And writing is not the hard part, it's the editing. I've had poems that normally I'll go over a poem 5, 6, 7 times, but I have some that I've done 20, almost 30 times, just to get the right inflection. And that drives me nuts, because I do have a slight case of OCD. So, that helps, and it's also a hindrance. Just don't go to a supermarket with me, as my wife will tell you, because I'm an unpaid employee straightening the shelves as I go. But I write about the reality. That's I write a lot of my poems I call the slice of life. And that's basically what they are. I take a little slice of life and I write about it. And a few years ago, I even remember the date, December 10th, 2018, I was reading the New York Times review, and David Orr is the poetry critic for the New York Times. He also teaches poetry at Rutgers, the State University in New Jersey. And he was doing a review, and he asked a question. I never got past the first 2 or 3 paragraphs. But basically, he said, how do you review a book of poetry? He said, as an example, he said in 1948, Robert Frost wrote a book of poetry, and in it was one of what he considers his greatest poems. And the rest was so-so. And I thought about that question, how do you review a book of poetry? And it took me about 2.5 years. During the pandemic, I had all the time in the world to think about it. And my answer is, every poem has to be reviewed. You can't just, it's not like a novel. You read 400 pages. When you're finished, you say, oh, I like the theme, I like the character, I like the ending, it was interesting, and you put the book away. Every poem is a novel, it's a story, and you have to delve into it. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you have to say something about it, because when you get a book of poetry with 50 poems or 100 poems like this, that's 100 novels in there. And each one tells you something. It's a thought, it's a product, it's a slice of life that I write about. And that's how you review a book of poetry. And that's what I have to say. Thank you all for coming. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Elliot, do you have openings in your critique groups?
Very rare. If you're interested, I'll put you on because I limit it. I don't make it unlimited. I was in a group down in Princeton where they merged with Delaware. They have, I think, Bill will know, about 60 members. I don't want that. I max it out at 8 or 9. I do have an opening every now and then. So if you're interested, send me an email. Lisa will give you my email. And, things happen. I had one group, one of my groups, my Thursday morning group, I had an actress from Queens, New York, and she was in it for about 6 months. And then, actors, they get a job. And she, and she sings at cabarets. So it was tough for her at 9 a.m. So she kind of dropped out. And then on Instagram, I picked up someone else. And that's how it is, it's, and then some people, they run out of stuff, I write about everything, but not everybody could do that, and I understand that. And I try to do between 1 and 3 poems each week per person. That's why I kind of limit the number. And if you do 1 poem, that's great. You want to, do 2 or 3, time allowing, we get to it. And that's how I run it. So I do occasionally have openings. All I ask is send me an email, and you never know. That's how it is.
I think it's a wonderful
Thank you.
service, really, that you're offering to help other poets as well to be able to develop their work. So kudos to you for doing that.
I mean, I have a member now in India, Lebanon, of course, the United Kingdom, in my Thursday morning group. India is tough because it's a big time difference, but it's worldwide. I pick up poets from Instagram, and it's a lot of fun. Strangers become friends, and that's basically what it is.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And congratulations. It's a great book.
Thank you.
It's really good. It's a great book of collections of poetry and feelings and your life, I suspect. Much of your life.
A lot of it.
Mhm.
Some is imaginary, which I wish it was, but I think we're all like that,
Oh, yeah.
And just hearing you talk about the farm life, it inspired me with a couple ideas for poetry as we're sitting here. So thank you for more ideas to write about.
And if you can understand my Brooklyn accent, I appreciate it.
I love a good accent. Well, thank you all so much for coming out today and celebrating with us. If you haven't had a chance to pick up Elliot's book, it's out there now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and IndieBound. If you'd like to have it delivered to your local bookstore, go to IndieBound, or it's now called bookshop.org, but it kind of helps out your local stores as well. But again, thank you all so much for coming, and you'll have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Lisa.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Congratulations.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.